thoughts while driving. I'll talk about my ectopic pregnancy. We had 2 losses before we had our rainbow baby girl this past January. The one prior to that being my ectopic. So my ectopic I had when my son was about 9 months in, I think it was. Found out I was pregnant with the baby that was ectopic in November or December of 2023. No, 2024. Yeah, 2024. And it was in January that it would rupture. Around my birthday, actually. Happy birthday to me. But yeah, I knew something was wrong pretty much from the beginning. Of course, that thought always crosses your mind, considering I had my first miscarriage of twins a few months prior to that. So that thought was definitely in my brain to begin with. But I had cramping in my left side, and I was like, I've known about the potential for ectopics, and I felt like something was wrong. I'm like, I shouldn't have cramping right here. And then I started spotting, and yeah, that's when it all really hit the fan. And I was like, why is this happening again? And I was thinking, well, maybe it's just implantation bleeding. But I was like, well, that shouldn't happen at this point, because I had had a positive test for a few weeks by that point. And yeah, so, and then I lost like a clump of tissue. Still had no idea what it was. I think I researched what it could have been, like a cast or something that they call it. I'm not sure. But yeah, once that happened, I knew it was time to go to the ER. So we did, and they did ultrasound and discovered that it was an ectopic. And to follow up with my regular OB as soon as possible. And I could tell in her eyes, she's like, well, what are you going to do if it's twins? And then as the ultrasound went on, we knew it was ectopic. She didn't say it, but she just said, I'm glad you came in. And I knew pretty much then that that's what it was. And then so once the ER or OB, once the ER physician let the OB on staff know what it was, they scheduled me for my follow-up with my regular OB. And they said that you could do the medication, I forget what it's called right now, mom brain, where it pretty much dissolves the pregnancy, or makes your body absorb it. Which I didn't even want to do that, because I felt like I was killing my baby. And all you pro-choice people, fuck at this point, because it's not just a clump of cells, it's a baby. And if you disagree with that, then just keep scrolling at this point. It's a baby. And at that point, I would rather that baby have killed me than killed it. And thankfully, this all happened. Thankfully this all happened on a holiday weekend. So I believe I went in on a Friday from follow-up from the ER, and they wouldn't be able to see me again. No, I think it was a Thursday. I don't know. It was around the weekend. And they wanted me to come back in on Monday to start that medication that would absorb my pregnancy, the baby. And so between then, I had work that Friday. And I had felt some cramping throughout the day. And at that point, I was like, well, I got home and it had gotten worse. And I called my husband. Thankfully, my mom was in town watching my son while I was at work. And thank God she was, because I told my husband, who was at work, hey, the cramping's gotten worse, I'm about to go to the ER and get checked out. And he, of course, was like, okay. And then in between that phone call and deciding to go to the ER, I felt it rupture, which is it's hard to explain that feeling, but it's pretty much, you pretty much can tell that the inside of you just popped, ruptured. I knew exactly what it was. So I was laying on the floor in excruciating pain, and my mom was there, kind of oblivious to what was really happening, telling me to just calm down, it's okay. I'm like, no, it's not okay. I just lost the baby. And I just said, either, I was like, call 911, or I decided I'm going to call, well, actually my husband is a first responder, so he pretty much just said, hey, you need to get an ambulance to this address right now. And so he did that actually for me, and then they showed up, and got me to kind of calm down a little bit. I was pretty much probably having a panic attack at the same time. My blood pressure wouldn't even, or my heart rate was just so high at the time, to be expected. So they get me loaded up and take me to the hospital. And I could feel the pressure from the blood in my abdomen, feeling like you had to go to the bathroom, or just that pressure on your bottom is what I felt. And that was the internal bleeding. So yeah, they get me to the ER, and I'm breastfeeding, so I say no to all pain medication at this point. No morphine, anything, until I knew for sure that I was going into surgery to have my ruptured tube removed, which happened the following morning. I guess I was stable enough to wait that long. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to have to hurry up. But yeah, so they do an ultrasound, which was the most excruciating ultrasound I've ever had in my life, because they had to do one on top, but they also had to do a transvaginal ultrasound, which was, oh my gosh. Of course, the alarms are going off that they had me on because my heart rate was so high because of the pain. And of course, the ultrasound tech is just calmly doing her procedure while I'm about to jump off the table because of the pain. Get that done, and of course the nurse comes, or the OB on staff comes in and says, yeah, we're going to take you into surgery, but I think I had eaten a little bit before this, so they wanted to delay my surgery longer, and I was stable enough to wait that long, I assume. They did mention a blood transfusion, but I guess my red blood cells were fine enough for that to not happen. May not require that. Red blood cells, I guess, were stable enough to not require a transfusion, and I went into surgery the next morning to have my tube removed. And yeah, the recovery was rough. The air that they pump you with to get to everything was some of the was very painful post-op. But yeah, that's how we lost our second, I guess you could call it our third baby. And if you have any questions for me about ectopic pregnancies, or if you're concerned with an ectopic pregnancy, if I help at least one person, it's worth sharing my story. But yeah, don't dismiss any symptoms you may have. Make your symptoms known to your doctors, because you know your body better than anybody else, and that's all there is to it. But yeah, that's my latest loss, and I have my double rainbow baby in the back seat right now, our baby girl, which we waited to find out until she was born. But yeah, I thank God for these two little miracles in my back seat, and that I'm here to watch them grow up.